Hey, what's happening, y'all? It's me coming back at you again with another vid. Just want to go ahead and share my post-fight thoughts on the Anthony Joshua and Joseph Parker fight. A very anticipated heavyweight clash for the unified WBA, WBO, and the IBF, and the minor IBO titles. Um, where do I start? The fight did not go the way that I expected, or for the most part, anyone's. It kind of went beyond everyone else's expectations. Um, I must say though, I got to give a shout out to those who actually called it almost 100% on Joseph Parker's performance. And I did say that Joseph Parker was not going to be a slouch. Okay, I know a lot of people were writing him off before leading up to this fight. They thought he was a weak link of the heavyweight division, and they were assessing that based off his last few performances. It all started from the Carlos Takam fight, which was a good, tough fight for him. He pulled it through. Then his not so great performances against Ramnu Kajano. I think I'm pronouncing his real name right. I'm mispronouncing his name. I'm butchering it. Forgive me. And then before that, Huey Fury. So Joseph, I have to say though, both fighters, Anthony and Joseph, showed some tactical improvements or adjustments in this fight. And the reason why I say that is because if you look at their previous fights, both men have had some deficiencies with their endurance, defense, and so forth. And Anthony Joshua, going into this fight, he came in a lot lighter than he usually does. His previous fight, he came in at 254 pounds. In this fight, he came in at 242. Still a big guy. And Joseph came in at 236. So they were both in good shape. Now, the one thing I have to say is that Anthony Joshua showed some adjustments. He was a lot lighter on his feet, or in other words, much quicker on his feet. He was able to cut off the ring a lot better. And another thing I didn't expect is Joseph Parker being on the back foot for the most part of the fight. Now that's something I did not expect. I expect Joshua to be on the back foot like he was against Taco, like during half of that fight. But the one thing Joseph was able to do though is that he made Anthony Joshua look. I hate to say it, he made him look like a bit of a novice in there. And all credit to Joshua, he was able to negate Joseph Parker's offensive arsenal, because Joseph Parker wasn't showing any much of a offensive scheme in this fight, and neither is Joshua. The one thing I would say is that even though Anthony Joshua was like a lot quicker on his feet and he was able to cut off the ring, but there is still some technical deficiencies there. He still lacks the head movement, and he's still robotic and still stiff. That's something he's going to have to correct real quickly, because going forward, this is going to get a lot tougher for him in the future bouts. Now, he did win the fight on all three judges' scorecard, but the scorecards were very ridiculous. One judge had it 119 to 109, and two judges scored it 118 to 102. I'm gonna give you my honest score here, my honest assessment. I scored this fight a lot closer than that, even though this was a very uneventful fight. I have to say it was uneventful. Not what I expected as far as the atmosphere of it. I scored this fight 116-112. I can see some people scoring it 177 to 5 for Anthony Joshua. He was the clear victor. But those who are saying that they thought Joseph Parker won this fight, I don't know, man. You guys gonna have to give a very, very detailed explanation on this. Because I will say this though, the first 6 rounds were pretty swing rounds, and you can argue Joseph won it, but I think that Anthony Joshua nicked a couple of those swing rounds, and that's why I scored an 8 for 4 for him, because he was able to control the pace of the fight throughout the end. And then one thing I have to say though is that Paulie Malignaggi, I was watching the Showtime broadcast. Paulie Malignaggi mentioned this and at the top of the broadcast. He said, look, I see that Joseph is boxing on the back foot. It's commendable. It's the right thing to do. But it's going to be very difficult to win a fight on the road if you're going to fight off the back foot, especially if you're fighting in someone else's backyard. And from the scorecards, you could argue the fix was already in. So even if the fight was going to go to the distance, even if it was going to be close, Joshua's going to get the benefit of the doubt. I mean, hey, that is the norm, but it's a fucked up situation. But, despite that, we can't really rule that out now because he actually was a clear victor here. Now, another thing I wanted to point out is that the refereeing, the officiating in the fight was terrible. Terrible. Eddie Hearn, why would you spend this much be so cheap to get a guy like this? This seems so amateurish the way this guy was officiating. Every time these guys were trying to fight up close into clinches, he'll immediately break them. That was just disgraceful. He was halting the action unnecessary on several occasions. I just don't understand. As I was saying, I just don't understand why would Eddie Hearn couldn't get a quality, a world level, a world class, a world class official with experience. I just don't. This was just a terribly officiated fight. It's not the worst, but it's one of the worst. It's probably one of the worst I've ever seen. Looking at this card altogether, man, this whole card was pretty uneventful, except for one fight, and that was the David Price versus Alexander Povetkin fight. While it lasted, I'll get to that in another video. But like I said, both men showed some tactical improvements and adjustments in this fight, rather than showing some offensive arsenal from both, because neither men was landing any shots of good significance. They would buzz each other to some degree. But of course, Anthony Joshua was able to gain Joseph Parker's respect a little bit more than Joseph Parker was able to do it. But it's just like both men were very timid to fight each other. Joseph, which people seem to overlook, was actually landing some very good body shots. That seems to be overlooked. And I don't know, man. This is just not what I expected. But hey, I agree with Anthony Joshua. You're not going to knock out everyone, especially if you're going to fight at this level, especially at your early stages of your career. He's still young. He still has his youth. But the thing is, though, is that this is going to get much tougher for him. It's all, obviously it began with the Klitschko fight, then the Taco fight, now this fight. His last two fights, his performances has been not on par. But like I said, though, I'm not going to knock him for that. This is what happens when you step up on your level of competition. Hey, Deontay Wilder's had some difficulties when he stepped up. So it goes either way. Now, where does both fighters go from here? Anthony Joshua, like I said, let me start with Joseph Parker. He could go back home. I know he lives in Vegas right now with Kevin Barry. He may retreat to New Zealand, back to Samoa. He's gotten a very good payday, so we might not see him for a while after this. But he definitely needs to get back to the mix. So don't take a long layoff or a long holiday, as you want to call it. I'll advise against that. As far as Anthony Joshua, I have to reiterate my point. This is not going to get easier for him, because Povetkin was successful in his title elimination bout against David Price, which, by the way, was the most exciting fight on the card, even though that lasted 5 rounds. But like I said, I'll get into details on that in another video. So Povetkin, he's going to have to deal with Povetkin as the dual mandatory, because Povetkin is the WBO and the WBA champion. And knowing Povetkin and his people, the world of boxing promotions, Andre Ryabensky, the billionaire, this guy's got billions of dollars, and they never have lost a purse bid. So if they can't come to an agreement, this fight, if the WBA or the WBO orders that fight, I just don't see Joshua or Matchroom winning a purse bid. That fight's going to take place in Russia. Now the question is, will Joshua keep his title, or is he going to vacate? That'll be yet to be seen. But according to certain reports, Anthony Joshua is already lined up to fight Jarrell Big Baby Miller in the United States, making his U.S. debut over there in MSG. So that's penciled in for August from what I've been hearing. That's yet to be seen. But of course, Deontay Wilder had looked at this performance, and I have to say, though, it's going to give him more confidence by watching that performance by Anthony Joshua. Much more confidence. And again, I have to say, well, not again. And with that saying, he's not going to lose sleep over that Anthony Joshua's performance. Not again, guys. I'm not knocking Anthony Joshua's performance. I was just saying that I'm just looking at it from an objective point of view. Both men didn't perform to the standards that we would hope for. That's Anthony Joshua and Joseph Parker. So, anyhow, let me know what your thoughts are, and let me if you agree or disagree with me. I'm out. Peace.